The Macedonia African Methodist Church Cemetery has a unique history filled with lost narratives of those buried there. However, in its current state, the cemetery faces many insurmountable problems, including fixing damaged headstones, preserving the land, and finding out more details about the deceased. Several preservation efforts by community members and groups in Johns Creek have been made over the past decade. In order to understand the process of preserving a historical site such as the Macedonia Cemetery, Jennifer Dickey, a history professor at Kennesaw University, and Ashley Shares, director of preservation at Oakland Cemetery, have given us insight into the preservation process and its impact on our community.
Are the descendants of the people who were buried here still in the area? Why or why not? Did they leave in the Great Migration? Are they still here? So it prompts us to want to explore these stories at an individual level and sort of drill down beyond just the big timeline of American history.
So a big part of what I do and how I conduct preservation is I help families and communities decide what are the most pressing preservation priorities and help balance what they think is important with what might actually be materially important. Something might be someone's favorite headstone because it belongs to their grandfather, but it's not damaged, so there's not much that I should be doing with it, but then there's something that belongs to someone less well known that's broken, and in terms of preservation, that's a higher priority. So I help people decide, okay, you have a set amount of money, what can we do with that money that has the biggest impact? So that's one of the biggest things I do with a smaller cemetery. The fact that humans care for the dead and commemorate the dead is one of the things that separates us from any other species, any animal, right? So just the fact that we care for a cemetery is important, and we should do it because it's what makes us human. On another level, often cemeteries are the only remaining part of a community that is now gone. Like the church is gone, the houses these people probably lived in are all gone. This is the only actual, you can touch it. It's the only tangible link to the past that these people have. These people probably don't have a single book written about them. There's nothing, they don't have a house, they don't have anything left. So to have a part of history that you can actually touch, people connect with that more than just reading it in a book.
After being neglected since 1990, the Macedonia Cemetery has been the subject of numerous preservation attempts aimed to restore the cemetery and preserve its history. Shortly after being declared abandoned with no apparent owner, Fulton County acquired maintenance rights to the property and aided in early contributions for Macedonia's preservation. From the 1990s to present day, community members such as Joanne Compton, president of the Johns Creek Historical Society, and Kirk Kennedy, who's a board member of the Johns Creek Historical Society, have worked tirelessly to raise funds and awareness to preserve the cemetery in the new city of Johns Creek. Youth organizations like the Girl Scout troops and Student Leadership Johns Creek have participated in cleaning debris from the cemetery and raising funds to contribute restoring land and headstones. As of April 2021, the Student Leadership Johns Creek fundraised and donated $3,100 to the Johns Creek Historical Society, and with that money have been able to repair and restore 14 grave sites, says Joanne Compton. Furthermore, Mr. Kirk Kennedy asserts that yucca plants and daffodils outside the fenced area indicate that more unmarked graves could be present, raising hopes for this mission. The Macedonia Cemetery is vital to the community of Johns Creek because its preservation can enable learning from the past, enlightening people about the place they live in, while also giving life and value to the people buried at the site. To help with this preservation process, community members, descendants of those buried at Macedonia, the Johns Creek Historical Society, and elected officials have made efforts by continually searching for family members of the people buried at the cemetery. So far, over 60 people buried at the site have been successfully identified. On November 16, 2020, the city of Johns Creek resolved to acquire ownership of the cemetery. Members of the Johns Creek City Council have worked to push forward localized legislation that will allow those in the cemetery to be better respected. For instance, on June 21, 2021, an ordinance was passed that fines those who deface or vandalize the historical site in any manner, with a maximum of $1,000 or 6 months in jail. This legislation will help protect Macedonia from further destruction and disrespect. Nevertheless, in the near or late future, what is it we, as a community, envision for the Macedonia Cemetery? In order to preserve the cemetery for generations to come, we must arrange for consistent and determined responsibility of the land by the city of Johns Creek and its residents. Other efforts to preserve the cemetery would be to look for funding and partners and consider future uses. Some of these plans include making the cemetery a historical landmark for local schools to participate in preservation. Jennifer Dickey, head of preservation at Oakland Cemetery, emphasizes the importance of a cemetery and how a cemetery provides the community a space to go. Whether you're related to the people there or not, you could go to a cemetery and find peace or history. Other plans can include adding information plates around the cemetery that highlight the rich history and stories of those buried in Macedonia. In order to do so, we hope the John Street community can continue to come up with steady and long-term goals for the Macedonia Cemetery, taking it step by step to make the Macedonia Cemetery and its stories known to all. Perhaps a special kiosk about the cemetery and its history can be included in the annual Johns Creek Arts Festival? So, what is our role in historic preservation? And why is historical preservation important to any of us? The preservation efforts that have gone on for decades let the cemetery live on, and for the community and the families whose ancestors are buried there. We have so much to learn from the Macedonia Cemetery, and continuing its preservation can help the community of Johns Creek put together parts of histories in ways we did not know we could.
Also, a cemetery provides a community a space to go. Whether they're related to the people there or not, you can go to a cemetery and find peace, and you can go and you learn about history. So cemeteries are important on, a number of levels.
With proper care, value, respect, and importance for the Macedonia Cemetery, generations to come can learn so much. And so, it is our job as a community to play a part in letting the heart of the cemetery live on, for the past, the present, and the future. As Mayor Botker states, we're thankful for our community coming together to preserve the Macedonia Cemetery. This is an important part of our history and a reminder that we must always remember that we are all equal in the eyes of our Creator. It is important to remember history, especially that of dark times, lest we forget and repeat the mistakes of our past.